warm welcome to each of you in this room, to the MMin and MA graduates, along with their families and friends who are joining us virtually, and from our hearts to each of you of the alumni who have made a special effort to come home to SSU for this significant occasion. As we begin the 45th Convocation of St. Stephen's University, we want to acknowledge that we are here in the traditional and unsurrendered homeland of the Beska-de-Mugadi people, covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, and we are grateful for their welcome and friendship. And now we turn our thoughts to the Creator. Gracious God, thank you for bringing us to this place. Make each of us an instrument of your grace to one another. Continue to weave us into a community of justice, beauty, and compassion. Bless us in our differences and undergird our courage to stand together. Lead us to know you more deeply and to walk humbly and joyfully with you on each step of the journey of our lives. We call on you today to gather us in your love. Help us to honor you as we celebrate the graduates of 2023. Keep us mindful that it is always, and in this moment, in you that we live and move and have our being. In the name of the Creator, of Jesus, and of the Spirit of life, we enter this time with grateful and expectant hearts. Amen.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. What a glorious day for this event. We couldn't have asked for anything better. My name is Joe McGinn. I have the privilege of serving as president here at St. Stephen's University, and I want to welcome everybody, but I also want to take just a moment to single out a few different groups of folks for particular welcome. I'd like to begin with all of our current and past members of the Board of Governors. As some of you may remember from my remarks last night, these folks are all volunteers, and I just continue to be amazed by the dedication and the commitment and the tremendous resources and experience and perspective that they continue to bring to the university. And so I want to welcome them very deeply. I'd also like to make a special welcome for our faculty and staff, both present and past. The faculty and staff of the university are really, in my view, the beating heart of this wonderful community. They are so devoted to students and to their welfare and to their success. It's been a real honor for me to get to know them and to work with them since my arrival here at the university. So welcome, all of my colleagues. I would also like to just pay particular note to this large section over here. We have a fairly large contingent of alumni, many of whom are in the area here, local to St. Stephen, but others have come from quite a distance to be here with us today. So to all of you, a special welcome and thank you for being here. And then finally, I want to welcome our soon-to-be, not yet, but soon-to-be graduates and their families, their friends, their supporters. This is a special day. It's so exciting to be here to celebrate all of your achievements, all of your accomplishments with you. So again, welcome to everybody. I'll turn things over to my colleague, Carol McDonald, who is the chair of our Board of Governors, and I think she would like to extend a few words of welcome as well, too. So thank you.
Good morning. family and friends, faculty, and I think it's probably staff at various places here, and particularly our alumni and any other distinguished guests. I bring you greetings on behalf of the Board of Governors. Today is all about our about-to-be newly minted graduates, and I'll congratulate them in a moment. But I want to pause briefly to say something else. You've probably heard the saying that it takes a village to raise a child. It's a Nigerian Igbo proverb. But likewise, it also takes a community to raise a graduate. And so I want to say thank you on behalf of the board to their professors, to their classmates who are not graduating today, but have been a part of their lives, to the staff, to presidents past and present, Dr. McGinn, Dr. Margaret Ann Smith, Reverend Bob Cheatley, and Jeremy Barnum as well. Thank you. Without each of you, none of us would be here present today to be honoring the students. To the graduates, you've worked hard, you've laughed, and sometimes you've probably cried. And you've shared memories and you've made new memories together. And today we are all very, very proud of what you've accomplished. As you go forth, regardless of where you may be going, you will bring justice, beauty, and compassion to our world. So on behalf of the Board of Governors, congratulations to each of you. May you use the gifts you have received from SSU and from each other to live fully, love generously and wisely, and never stop learning. We wish you the best of luck. Bonne chance. Kualaluk.
was absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much. Well, we are here to confer degrees on some very amazing students, and we'll turn to that right away. I'd like to just say a few words about the conferral of degrees. Some of this may be new, some of it may not be new, but the way the conferral works is that I'll be asking each of the undergraduate students to stand as a cohort, and then asking my colleague to actually confer the degree on behalf of the Chancellor and the Board of Governors, and with the authority of the charter that the university currently holds. We'll then proceed to the graduate students and basically go through the same thing again. And then after that, once the degrees have been conferred, and this is the moment, by the way, this is something people don't often realize, it's when my colleague over here next to me actually says, I confer. This is when the degrees are actually conferred and the magic happens. And, the degrees are actually sort of passed along. After that, of course, we have a ceremony whereby this change in status, this change in situation is reflected outwardly in the form of a formal hooding, the receiving of a hood which telegraphs or signals to the larger community the arrival of a new scholar in its midst, and then, of course, a diploma that can be displayed in an appropriate place from then on. So, without further ado, let me begin. Will the candidates for the degrees Associate of Arts, Bachelor of Arts with Distinction, and Bachelor of Arts Honors First Class please rise? Mr. Henderson, it is both an honor and a privilege to present to you the candidates here today, as well as those in absentia, for the degrees mentioned. On behalf of the faculty of St. Stephen's University, I am proud to certify that these students have successfully completed all requirements for the degree for which they are candidates.
On behalf of the Chancellor of St. Stephen's University, and in accordance with the authority provided by the university's charter, I hereby confer upon you, whether present or in absentia, the degree which you are entitled. The Associates of Arts, or the Bachelor of Arts, with all the rights, privileges, and honors attached thereto. Congratulations.
Now, will the candidates for the degrees Master of Ministry in Theology and Culture and Master of Arts in Theology and Culture please rise? Mr. Henderson, it is both an honor and a privilege to present to you the candidates here today, as well as those in absentia, for the degrees mentioned. On behalf of the faculty of St. Stephen's University, I am proud to certify that these students have successfully completed all requirements for the degree for which they are candidates.
On behalf of the Chancellor of St. Stephen's University, in accordance with the authority provided by the university's charter, I hereby confer upon you, whether present or in absentia, the degree which you are entitled, Master of Ministry in Theology and Culture, or Master of Arts in Theology and Culture, with all the rights, privileges, and honors attached thereto. Congratulations.
Welcome, graduates, to the SSU alumni. We are so honored to have you. So I'm going to ask our alumni in the room to stand wherever you are and properly help me welcome the graduates. So along with me in your program, you're going to be reading the alumni section of the benediction. And I'm going to get all the graduates as well to stand, including those maybe participating remotely. And of course, you're going to read the graduate section. So I'm hoping the alumni outnumber the graduates by a little bit here, so you guys are going to have to really give it your all. Okay, alumni. Will you go forward into the mystery, confusion, and joy of your individual and communal journeys?
Whether the way is hidden or open, whether we walk, run, or stumble, you will go forward. With the help of Lord, friends, and opponents, we will go forward. With all the impossible help that love will inspire to offer, we will go forward.
We now welcome you to the company of those who have walked and been dragged through this community's process of hopefully holistic education. When life is abundant, may gratitude fill you. When you are comfortable, may moderation afflict you. When you are afflicted, may comfort find you.
Amen.
The song I'm about to share is one that has become maybe a staple at these events for SSU alumni and graduates. It's called Icarus, and it's based on a poem by Gerard Hawkins that was very instrumental when I was a student at SSU and has continued to be meaningful to me. I won't read it out to you. But what it does, I hope, what it does outline is the beauty of everything around you, the inherent qualities that speaks itself out, exhibits life and love and joy into the world. And I want that for each of you as well, to feel like you can be yourself and keep going forward authentically. So I've got if I can bring it up on my phone. I've got a short blessing for students, alumni, and graduates. To students and graduates, sorry, Tom, I'm a little bit forward. To the students and graduates, share the light you have found kindled in your hearts. Share it with those you meet on the coming roads and pathways, gardens and crossings. May you find new beginnings that spur you on to a deeper love and understanding for the world that you have been discovering on your journey. To alumni, may your light be rekindled, your hope restored, and hearts be warmed by this bonfire of ritual, affection, remembered love, and even expanded with the joy of new perspectives on the journey. And to SSU staff and faculty, wherever you are, may you rest, and when you've rested, may you remember your innermost self, renewed to your deepest vocations, and in this ever-renewing life, be present and ready to break fresh ground.
just catch fire. Let me be a caress, burst into holy flame. Oh. And struck by the sun, we come alive, awaken to love, we're ready to fly, and everything in us calls out, look at this life. Struck by the sun, we come alive, awaken to love, you're ready to fly, and everything in you calls out, look at this life. When it gets dark, you still care. God's grace is you're here to be. Lovely eyes and faces, you carry a light into 10,000 places. When it gets dark, you still carry God's graces. You're here to be you. Lovely eyes, lips, and faces. You carry the light into 10,000 places. Oh, 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 oh,
Good morning. Hi, Peter. I'm Margaret Ann Smith, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce today's Convocation speaker, Dr. Peter D. Fitch. But this poses a bit of a problem, really, because most of us know Peter very well. What can I say? I don't need to tell you that he has a doctorate from Fuller Theological Seminary, or that he came to SSU back in 1979, or that he has graded approximately, I did the math this week, I came up with a number of 10,562,743 student essays in the last 4 years. I forgot one. You haven't finished marking that one yet. I don't need to tell you that Peter lives across the street from SSU at Mary Ellen, where they raised 4 beloved children, all of them alumni, some of them here. Or that Peter has written 3 books, was a pastor for many, many years, and loves playing guitar, hanging out with grandkids, and watching basketball, among other things. From the classroom to the river path, from his porch to the shores of the Mediterranean, one of Peter's great gifts has been loving and serving the students of St. Stephen's University for many years. For many of those years, there could have been a tunnel from Park Hall to Mary Ellen and Peter's house. If you couldn't find a student at SSU, they could be at the Fitch's kitchen table, or perhaps even have their head in the Fitch's refrigerator. None of us could imagine SSU without Peter and Mary Ellen's steady and generous presence in the SSU community. Their leadership, their influence on so many moments, so many festivals, so many ordinary times, so many special times, so many undergraduate trips to Europe, graduate trips to the Middle East. Peter can tell so many travel stories, and some of them are even good stories. In later years, Peter has ended up specializing in 2 distinct and only slightly challenging areas: teaching first-year students how to think coherent thoughts and write them down in coherent order, and also giving graduate students the opportunity and emphasizing the very necessity of living all the questions, as the poet Rilke says, in a rapidly changing and challenging world. On behalf of everyone gathered here, those who are not here, those who are watching, thank you, Peter, for loving us all so much, for your constant patience and kindness, your trust, and your endless hope. Our friend and professor, Peter Fitch.
It was good for me. I feel like I can go home now. When I was asked to do this, I felt that it was a daunting task. As I think everybody understands, this is the last convocation for the undergraduate program. It's been suspended, at least. We don't know if it will be picked up again. The graduate program continues. So I want to speak a word today to the graduates, of course, but I also want to have in my heart all the meaning of what this experience has been for so many of us. A transformative experience for all these years. When I came in 1979, David Gorey's class was just about ready to graduate. I got to teach you in your last semester. So David was one of the first students at SSU. And you spent 3 months in Paris, I think. Yeah. Because this little school was created with a big vision. And I remember I played music at the first convocation. It was Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring on guitar, playing with Wendy Cruikshank on flute. I messed it up. So here we are, all these years later. I think that SSU is a very special school. Really, I think it's very amazing that this small university can place students in top universities and graduate school. I think that's not nothing. I think it's really, really an incredible, it's just an incredible thing that's been accomplished by so many people that have worked here, by the presidents who have led. It's been an honor to understand the gifting of each one and to see how it contributed to the faculty, to the staff. And I think it's almost, in my mind, it's almost like all the dreams that we had in the early days, they've been accomplished. We used to hope that Park Hall could be beautiful. And it was just a disaster when I first saw it. And even worse than it had been the year before. I mean, it was purchased as a condemned building, and then there was a fire in 1978. And I came here to visit to see if I would come and teach. And I was in the middle of some immigration problems with the United States, and I wasn't allowed to come into Canada. So even though I'm a Canadian citizen. And so I could see Park Hall, and everyone was telling me about how they were bringing it back to life. And then there was a fire the week after I left. I went back to Colorado where I've been studying. And this place, when I finally saw it in January, 2 months later, there was water on the floor in the red room. It was, the boards had all warped. It was the third floor was called the disaster wing. And there was this dream that someday it would be beautiful. And it is beautiful now. I could use a coat of paint on the outside, I grant you that. but it's absolutely beautiful inside, and I'm so proud of it. And another thing that we longed for was academic recognition, and everyone worked so hard. I think we made our students read 10 times more books than you have to at a regular university. Tell me about it. And we had the largest undergraduate degrees. Because we were the smallest school, it just goes along with that. And we longed to be well recognized, and then it happened. It was after the charter. Students were placed into top graduate schools before the charter, but when the charter was accomplished, from that point on, and with so many universities, so many deans saying their students have come to our school and they've done at least as good a job as everyone else. That we were able, even as a tiny, tiny school, a tiny, caring community, to place students in top law schools. It's just remarkable to me. And the other thing that I longed for was, and I prayed for, I longed for diversity in the student body. I longed for an international student body because I just believed that it's a picture of goodness. If we bring the values and the gifts of the different cultures and ethnicities together, we get a richer community. And suddenly it's happened in the town of St. Stephen, and it happened also in our final class at SSU. So it's clearly time to finish. Like we did it, check, check, check. I think the thing that makes SSU the most special is the kindness. It's the kindness of everyone. It's the people that came here to work here were so dedicated to a vision of education that they just went over the extra mile all the time. Not, just determined that students wouldn't fail. Not that some didn't, some found a way. But so I remember one time when L.A. Henry said, "I am not going to let her go." Do you remember? And you found a student that was just, it looked like she wasn't going to be able to graduate. And you started to spend time with her and provoke her. And she graduated. Later she got a master's. Now she has a job. It's the kindness of the staff, present, current staff, the staff over the years. I've just never seen anything like the kindness and the patience in the staff. And one of my favorite quotes is from a rabbi, a 2,000-year-old rabbi, about the same time as Jesus. Well, it was considered in Judaism one of the most popular teachers. His name was Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa. And he says, if your concern for others exceeds your desire for wisdom, your wisdom will endure. If your desire for wisdom exceeds your concern for others, your wisdom won't endure. If your kindness exceeds your wisdom will endure. If your wisdom exceeds your kindness, your wisdom will not endure. I think it's a matter of priority. And somehow, in the midst of this chaotic, crazy place, kindness became such a value and such a virtue that people have lived it over and over again. Not perfectly. There have been so many issues, of course. But trying, always trying to be kind and trying to help each person to grow. So SSU, in all of its forms, is kind of a chrysalis. It's a cocoon. One of the things that we've done quite well, I think, is help people be prepared for further academic work or further careers. We have students that are in the arts, students that are in business, students that are in helping care, students that are in education, students doing a myriad of things. So I think we did that quite well. I think the other thing that we did quite well is we helped people grow into an authentic version of themselves. I think we just created an encouraging atmosphere, and it seemed as though person after person became free to become the best part of them. And I think that was a wonderful place, a wonderful thing to be a part of. So, when I'm speaking to graduates, and I'm thinking about SSU, the main theme that comes to mind for me is journey. I guess this happens a lot when people speak at commencements. But I want to say a few things about journey, about your journey. The world's great literature is full of heroic quests. You know, you think about the foundation myths of Greco-Roman society. You can have the Iliad, you can have the Odyssey. You can think of the Lord of the Rings, Hobbit. There are a lot of great stories about adventure, about a heroic quest. And I like Richard Rohr's idea that absolutely every human being is involved in a journey. Every human being is involved in a journey. He says it this way. He says, there is such a thing as kinesthetic knowing. It's the knowing of absolute security that the baby feels in the womb. It's something that we try to recreate for the rest of our life. A journey outward and a journey back in. And I don't know if you know this, maybe you do if you've been in one of my classes or you've heard me speak, but I was very taken by this idea that I just accidentally came across. In many cultures in the world, there are 4 foods that are considered comfort food. They are chocolate, ice cream, macaroni and cheese, and pizza. There is only one thing in the world, in the natural world, that shares the characteristic of these 4 things. It's 1 fat to 2 carbohydrates. Breast milk. I think we find comfort in these things because they remind us of a time of absolute security, of being at home, of not having a question about alienation or what's coming next. And I think that we go on a journey to try to find that once more. It's just it becomes much more interesting as we go through all of the obstacles of life. So it makes sense when T.S. Eliot says, we shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all of our exploring will be to arrive where we started and to know the place for the first time. So I think we're on a journey of maturation, a longing for security, hoping to be okay as we are. So I hope for you guys on your journey, the comfort of more than pizza. I hope for you the comfort of road signs, sometimes indicating this is the way. Companions, music, warm place by the fire, and a few other things as well. I hope you have a sense of meaning and purpose. Viktor Frankl was right, I think, when he said, there is a universal need in all of us to feel that we know that there's a reason for our lives. He said that if that's the universal part, the unique part is that it's different for everyone. And nobody can tell you what it is. I've been thinking about this week a little bit like, You remember the old joke about the sculpture? It says, how do you do this? How do you sculpt this elephant out of this? I just chip away everything that doesn't look like an elephant. I think that's kind of how meaning really emerges in our life. It's all the circumstances and the trials and the attempts and the encouragements and everything that comes along. I think it chips away until we gradually begin to realize this is who I am. This is what I'm here for. And each one of us needs this sense. We need this sense. The universal thing is we have a need for meaning. The unique thing is it's different for all of us. And it can't be foisted upon us. What I hope is that in your journey you'll have an ever-expanding worldview. I hope you will continue to get sharper lens on reality. Baruch Spinoza was a philosopher and his day job was sharpening lenses. I think it's a great metaphor. I just hope that you are always realizing that you aren't seeing it perfectly yet. And so you're just a little bit humble with your opinions because you might not have it all nailed down. And you keep growing. An ever-expanding worldview. Do you remember the Narnia Chronicles with C.S. Lewis, the children's stories? And there's a group of children at night and they're lost and they're longing for some direction. And then Lucy, the youngest one, has a sense that the lion that represents God in the picture, represents Christ in the story, is calling to her, and she gets up, very courageous, and she runs out of the camp into the arms of this wonderful figure, Aslan. And then she just takes a step back and she says, "My Aslan, how you've grown." And he says, "No, child, you have." I think this is the way life should be. We should always be looking at everything in a way that helps us to understand that it's bigger than we thought it was. And we keep, it's bigger. It's not that it's bigger. We're bigger as we see it. I hope that some of you become, I hope that all of you become saints in one particular way. I read someone this year who said that a saint is somebody who, because they're so in love with something, they live in a way that others can hardly imagine. And what they do is they create a deeper imagination for a whole society. They're like luminaries. People that, they do it in the arts, they do it in their field, they do it in science. I hope that you'll become so impassioned about something that you will become a weight to someone else's imagination. I hope that you'll learn to love yourself in spite of the wrinkles. I hope that you'll give the same generosity to others. I hope that you'll avoid burning out. There's a really good quote one of my students gave me last year. Boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously. I hope that you'll learn to love, as Martin Buber says, we treat people as objects very often. We don't think of them as subjects. But actually, each person is a subject as much as we are. So I hope you'll learn to love by recognizing that everybody else is important. And by really learning to pay attention. My favorite quote of all, I think, was Simone Weil's, "Attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity." To really see the other person. Even to do this so bravely that sometimes you take your own ideas and you put them on the back burner of your mind so that you're not just, when somebody's telling you who they are, you're not just making arguments against what they're saying, but instead you're really listening, completely paying attention. And then maybe there's something to learn from in this person. I hope you appreciate beauty. Remember Leonard Cohen said there's a crack in everything, that's how the light gets in. Andrew Smith, who's had a couple of children come here, said, "Don't you think that the stars were just holes in the night sky, letting the light shine in from a better world?" I think this longing for beauty will carry us a long way. And I have one piece of scripture that I think is most special to me. And I think there's a lesson that I hope you'll take from it. In the gospel account, Jesus says that he bases, or the narrator of the gospel says that Jesus does everything because he is fulfilling a prophecy from the Old Testament. And when I looked at the prophecy, it's Isaiah chapter 42. And I'm going to read it for you. And I think if you listen and you think about it, you can see incredible characteristics. I don't think it matters what you believe. You could still find something to grow on here. I think if you were coming from any ideology, you could find something noteworthy here. Here is my servant, whom I uphold, my chosen one in whom I delight. I'll put my spirit on him, he'll bring justice to the nations, will not shout or cry out, or raise his voice in the streets. A bruised reed he will not break, a smoldering wick he will not snuff out. In faithfulness he'll bring forth justice, will not falter or be discouraged till he establishes justice on earth. In his teaching the islands will put their hope. The thing I love about this passage, and I think it's really a mission statement for Jesus Christ, was a determination to bring justice to the world, a longing to make things right. I know that the work of the church hasn't always done that. Sometimes it's fought against justice. I believe that. But I think that Jesus Christ himself, as a mission statement that he took from the Old Testament, was most concerned with bringing justice to the world. I think that he wanted to do it in partnership with the Spirit of God. And I don't know about you, but have you ever had those moments when suddenly everything seemed to be going in the right direction? You were going with the flow? I would rather do life that way. And then it's so beautiful because it says, a bruised reed he will not break. It's so gentle. It recognizes individuals, doesn't speak to crowds. And I think this is what and then the last thing, it never gives up. It will never stop. So I think if you really want to be a presence in the world that will bring justice and beauty and compassion, this is a good mission statement for you too. The idea is, I hope you will never stop trying to make your own life better, trying to make the life of your friends and family better, trying to make the life of your community better, trying to make the life of all the people in all the marginalized communities who live with so much disadvantage and trauma, that you will never stop trying to make it better, but you'll do it all the time with kindness and seeing individuals, not crowds. I think it's not bad. I mean, maybe it's not for everybody, but it's pretty good. I hope that you will learn the value of intuitive listening for the creative voice. Maybe it's the voice that comes from the right brain, maybe it's the unconscious, maybe it comes from beyond. I hope you'll learn to listen to the intuitive voice. And I have to finish this talk by referring to someone who came up over and over again this week because of Monica.
I'm so special.
Well, actually, it was your focus on this person that made me do this. I found a crazy quote by Jim Henson. And Monica's her graduating thesis has been to explain to us the genre of biopic filmmaking, and she made. Did you make a biopic on Jim Henson's life, or you made some of it? Okay, so I've tried, I'm pretty good at Google, but I've tried, and I cannot find exactly where this comes from in the Magnus Opus. But Jim Henson, technically I think it's Kermit, had this to say. And this is my hope for you, those of you that journey on, and I think it's been true for SSU. I really do believe that all of you are at the beginning of a wonderful journey, says Kermit. As you start traveling down that road of life, remember this: there are never enough comfort stops. The places you're going to are never on the map. And once you get that map out, you won't be able to refold it no matter how smart you are. So forget the map, roll down the windows, and whenever you can, pull over and have a picnic with a pig. And if you can help it, never fly cargo. I don't. Why are there so many? So then you do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with your God as you perceive God. I hope you will do that. Bye.
To me to lead the benediction for this morning, because even though there's so much more still to say, we just need to go. But I have a few things yet before we get there. First, please remember that you are all welcome to join us for the Convocation tea at Park Hall immediately after this, except for those of you who have to stay around for photographs. You can't go immediately. And that's referring to the grads, the faculty, and the board. So grads, faculty, and board, please stick around for some photos before you head over to the tea. For those of you from our online programs who are watching the live stream, we're very glad that you've been with us, but you'll have to be on your own for refreshments. Second, I want to give some thank yous in regard to this weekend. First of all, a couple months back, we reached out to some folks to ask for help, so that in this challenging year that we were in, we wouldn't have to cut corners in celebrating our final undergrad class. And the generous response meant that we could celebrate in style. So thank you so much for all those who contributed to that. These grads deserved it. Huge thanks to Jess and Rachel for heading up our Convocation committee with a ton of work that has gone into that. To Lorna for so much support in that process for them, and to Kathy for, and I'm now quoting, everything. For this morning in particular, I'd like to thank Kirk McCall, who have welcomed us here so regularly, including Tony on Saturday. Thank you. For Hayden's and Shelley's help this morning with the Zoom, and I think that also was a village. So all those who helped in that process as well. For Renata's and Raymond's singing. For Michael on the piano. Thank you to everyone for making this possible this morning. I also want to take just a moment to acknowledge with gratitude those who have led us in the final years of the BA program. So about 5 years ago, the board asked Jeremy Barham and myself to form the office of the president for an interim year upon Bob Cheapy's retirement. While we expected some intentional changes, we had no idea that there would be a cascade of transitions over the next few years for a wide variety of reasons, including things like cancer and a global pandemic. So at first, with the passionate and creative energy of Jeremy Barham, with support from Mark Peterson, we thought things had stabilized as we handed off to the new incoming presidents, Steve Robinson and Dr. Margaret Ann Smith, in January of 2020. But Steve almost immediately needed to resign because of a cancer diagnosis, and just last year we were grieved to hear that he died. The thoughtful and compassionate leadership of Margaret Ann carried us through the many challenges of the pandemic years. And then we faced one more transition as we welcomed Dr. Joseph McGinn as president in January of last year. We're very grateful, Joe, that you returned to Canada to help us to take one last shot at keeping the BA program alive. A huge task after years when recruiting was all but impossible and the task was beyond us all. It seemed like almost no time at all before we found ourselves working at a very different transition, keeping SSU alive and reestablished as we prepared to transition to a primarily graduate-based program based on modular and online studies. Very different work from what you expected, John. And I thank you for your diligence in working with the board at smoothing the way for this challenging transition. Lots of work behind the scenes for you and for the board. Thank you. And now it is the time for the benediction. And I hope that these parting blessings ahead will be deeply received by all of you. Drink them in, take them with you, including those of you who are here from the graduate programs and others watching online. I'll do this in two parts. First, I want to share a benediction from Padre Kotuma. Just before the pandemic, we had the privilege of being able to host Irish poet Padre here, actually in this space, partly. And beautiful soul. And he wrote a benediction called Go in Pieces that felt apt for today. The task is ended. Go in pieces. Our concluding faith is being rear-ended. Certainties being amended. And something's getting mended that we didn't know was torn. We're unraveling and are traveling to a place of new formed patterns with delusion as a fusion of loss and hope and pain and beauty. So, the task is ended. Go in pieces to see and feel your world. Now, please stand. The words for the responsive benediction are on the final page of your program. When it says leader and those staying, that is referring primarily to those of us here, staff and faculty and board of SSU. When it says graduates, it means graduates. And when it says everyone, guess what? Everyone. So please join in the appropriate place. We bless your roads and your journeys. May you be cherished. May you find and offer peace.
We bless you with wine and water, bread and stories. May you be fed. May you be challenged.
We bless you with wind and fire, joy and wisdom. May you be comforted. May you be filled with life.
We bless this community and everything it represents. May you live well. May you be encouraged.
We bless one another with the disciples of joy and growth, the blessings of the pilgrims leading and those of the pilgrims staying. May God, who is present in sunrise and nightfall and the movements of the sea, encompass you in love as you go. May you travel ever deeper towards the love at the heart of the world.